Brother Terry came to Bakersfield in 1943. Actually rented the Spanish Apostolic Church for just a few services before he came to this location and rented this storefront at 609 East 18th Street. It was here that Brother Terry got the inspiration to really take control of the pulpit of our church. The man stood up in the day of pre-Pentecost around here was pretty prevalent. He stood up in church, every service would take over, and he walked out of the building this night and walked to the railroad track, which is directly behind us here, and was walking down the railroad track when God told him to go back in there and take over his pulpit and tell that man to sit down, or he was going to tell him how he lost his finger. But when he came back in and told him that, he sat down and never did bother him again. And after that, of course, he took control of his pulpit, and that's how he raised so many of us men that we believe in apostolic ministry. This is 512 East 18th Street. This is the second building that Brother Terry came in that actually had service themselves. It was here that they put up the pulpit, orange crate, and had printed songs. Sister Terry had printed the songs on a piece of paper. And it was also this building where in the back of the trunk of his car that he put the placard, "All Trinitarians are going to hell," on this particular site. And this was an old pet store. You can still see the window where it is if you look real close. And it was open, and they could see, and they were worshiping, and drew some people to the church. I personally wasn't here. Our family did not come until 1949. The next building we talk about is where we came, but Brother Terry would always bring us by and show us the beginnings of Bakersfield. And this was the church that he grew from the first little storefront to this actually freestanding building. And they had great revival, and the church was growing rapidly. They bought the property that we're going to show next on 34th Street. This is the church at 34th Street that Brother Terry built. This was actually the first building that he owned. There was a house here to my left where they lived, and this is where our family first came to Bakersfield in 1949. My father became part of the church here, and my mother. And this is where actually I received baptism of the Holy Ghost in 1953. The building has changed somewhat. On the other side was an alley. This canopy was not here. The front of the church was not there at that time. And there was no curb and gutter, and people would park in front of it. Several families came to church here. The McCanns came to church here. The Underwoods came to church. The Condons came to church. The Stevens came to church. Several families that are still involved in church around the country got their start here. And this is where we grew rapidly. I received the Holy Ghost during Brother Lee's revival in 1953. And also, it's when the Condon family came, and the Stevens family came, and many other families came that we can't talk about. But the Eubanks family was here, the Oswald families were here, the Watkins families were here. It's where a lot of young ladies came to church. Sister Lyons came to church here, and we really had a great move of God during those years that we were here. We were here my family was here from 49 until we moved to the other church down the street in 1954. We never stayed long in each one of these positions. It was always in a building program. But I remember as a young child, and I was baptized in this building, the lower part of the building that is added on now. The baptismal tank used to sit right there. That's where I remember meeting Brother Dallas Medford, and remember things with him and Glenn, which was my brother-in-law, and many others. I could tell a lot of stories from this as a child. That's where I saw the first funeral that I ever participated in. Then we had Sunday school out behind the two-story building that Sister B, affectionately known as Granny B. We called her Granny B. We loved her. She was a Sunday school teacher. We had Sunday school class outside the building there as a young man. We had some great revivals, and God really moved, and it was here that some of the foundational families of the church really got their start, got established. He was able to grow and outgrow this building. And I remember one night in this particular building, we just had one aisle, and Billy Watkins got so excited one night, she came walking on top of the pew to get to the altar. Just a great move of God here. I'll never forget it. This used to be an old mattress factory. The Albos owned that. Sister Albo came to church. Johnny Albo came to church. There are just so many memories, and I don't want to take all the time talking about it, but this was really the growth period of the early church, from the other two buildings to this one, and then major growth in the building that we're going to follow from here on out. "36-0 was the theme, motto for years. We had it on our bus system. We were running buses big time. Brother Terry moved to this property. The building was completed in 1954. In fact, it was put into the tile on the floor in 1954. My father cut it into there. This is where we came to church. The field that I'm standing in right now is where we broke our record in Sunday school. We had 1,303 in Sunday school. This field, we scattered coins out here, and we had what we called the money hunt. And Will Hoyt came, and we had great revival and great Sunday school growth during that time. You can see the two different levels of the church behind me. The lower level is the original church that was completed in 1954. The entry is still part of the old entry, the rock work around the front. My father built that, put that rock work in, also did the rock work around the outside of the building when we did the remodel in 1967. We wrapped the outside of the building in 1967, completed that, and changed the auditorium from facing north and south to facing east and west. The platform faced the west side, and that addition made the church much, much bigger, and we had Sunday school rooms all around to accommodate our Sunday school. It was growing. We had sometimes 600 or 700 in Sunday school, and then Sunday night we'd have 200, maybe 250. It was in this building that we cried for 300. We really wanted to grow to 300. We never quite made it in the original part of the old building. In the back, in fact, this first building that Brother Terry built was made out of the 1952 earthquake material that was being torn down, the buildings that was being torn down in downtown. The building behind this building was the kitchen, which is now torn down. You can't see it now, but it was laid with so many two-by-fours on the edge to make the solid floor, because we had so much lumber from all the buildings. The carpet came out of the old El Cajon Hotel, which now the Bank of America stands downtown, and they put that in the upstairs carpet. So we had a revival here with Brother Bean. This is where we had a great revival with Brother Bean. We went 13 weeks. We went 7 nights a week, every night. Every morning we had prayer meeting at 10 o'clock in the morning. We had some major growth. Some great families came in. God really blessed during this time, and it was a great blessing. And then in 1967, when we wrapped the building and changed it, we grew even more. And then we bought there used to be an old trucking company where the parking lot is. Alvin and Laverne bought the property and rented out the buildings, and then Brother Terry bought it from them. We raised the money selling peanut brittle, 25 cents, 50 cents a bag, and I think it was about $22,000 for that corner lot where all the parking is now. And then we tore down all the buildings, moved the houses, sold the houses, got rid of all the houses and put a parking lot in there, and then expanded the building. Great move of God, great move of Sunday school. Vernon Wilson was our Sunday school superintendent. He had a great vision. My brother-in-law was an outreach director and trying to follow up with all of our kids on the buses. We had about 6 buses during that time. I drove one of the buses during that time, and I was just 16 years of age, drove a Sunday school bus, taught kids in Sunday school. That's where Johnny King and some of the young people was in the 6th grade boys Sunday school class that I taught. And it's really where I got my foundation as pastor, learning to grow and teach. It was here that on the platform the night that Brother Terry turned to me as one of the young men, and he pulled out his big pocket knife that he carried and handed it to me with an open blade and turned his back on me and said, "You know what that means, don't you?" I said, "Yes, Elder, I think I know what it means." He said, "I'm going to start preaching you some more, but don't stab me in the back." And I got the lesson, and I never did stab him in the back. We loved Brother Terry, we honored him, who's had the privilege of him being with us for 21 years after I became pastor. And I loved Brother Terry. He had a great vision. He was always in a building program. And from here, we go to the last piece of property that we are still in today that he had the vision to buy in 1972. (1418) West Columbus. This is the last church property that Brother Terry bought in 1972. I was with him when we came down to bid on it, and it had come open for bid. Nobody bid, so they shut it down, and 6 months later it came back open, and they wanted $85,000 for it. First bid had to be $10,000, and every succeeding bid was $1,000. So we came, which you can't see right now, but there's an office building to my left here, and we were in what we called the library room at the time, and it was full of people. Yellow Cab was here, Potter Trucking was here, St. Clair was here that owns a lot of property in Bakersfield, and they were all bidding on it. Well, they opened up the bid, and they opened up the first envelope, and the first envelope he read, "We have a bid here from," closed it back up and set it aside. Never told us, even to this day, we don't know what the bid was. We think it was too low, but whatever it was, it never came out. He opened the next envelope up, which was only 2 envelopes there, and he read the bid, and he said, "We have a bid from First Pentecostal Church, $85,000. Paused, sold, First Pentecostal Church. Just within seconds. Everybody stood there dumbfounded, and we only know what we think because nobody really knows. They just stood there so dumbfounded that it sold that fast. And I think it was because that first bid needed to be $10,000, and nobody wanted to do that. They were prepared to go higher. We were prepared to go higher because we had the $85,000 check. We had a $10,000 check, and I think it was $21,000 checks that we had so that we could pay cash for it and buy it because we wanted it. And the real estate agent, Mr. Armstrong, he wanted us to have it, and I think that's why he sold it so fast. But it's because that first step had to be $10,000. So that was this 5 acres that we're standing on right now. The church behind me, it was on a vacant field on this side. The Libby Center that you see to the left wasn't here. This was all open field. Where we're standing was actually a pet farm where he had animals when we first came down here and started our school. The building to my left, the small building, was the first building that he completed in 1975, and we moved the school from the church, 36th and O, to here. This is where I came to work for Brother Terry in 1975, first full-time assistant pastor of Brother Terry, and got my start here as a full-time assistant working with the school. Ray Davis was the acting principal, and I was just, I don't know what I was. There's another story to that I can't tell, but Brother Davis can tell it to you. But it was a great little story. But anyway, this is where we had our beginning, and we moved some sheds around. Some of the sheds still here, but it's going to go be tore down for our next phase of our building. The next thing that we did, came down here, built the school, and then we built a little building up in front, and that became the high school wing. And then another barn that was enclosed became part of the high school there. But in 1976, we bought the corner lot, which is now Jack in the Box, and that's been a blessing to the church. We get about $55,000 a year, $55,500 a month beginning on the next phase of the lease. So it's really been a blessing to the church. Then in 1977, we bought the property over across the canal, which is now our park. It was 2.5 acres. We paid $7,500 for that piece of property. Now it's developed into a nice park for our children, our families. We have a sidewalk all the way around it where you can walk, and You don't have to go to a park and fight other people off, drug culture, homeless people, whatever. We have a park, we have a property, we have a school, we have a daycare, all that is here, all because of the vision of a man called I.H. Terry, that was our elder, our pastor, and he had the vision for all of this. I remember telling him one day when we had completed some work at the park, we've done more work since then, but I told him that we now completed the dream. The dream is complete. And he turned to me and said, no, the dream goes on. And it certainly has gone on. From that time, we've added more things at the park. We had the cell tower over there that's been a blessing to us. Got a block wall around it. A lot of benefits in the park. This property became the hub for our church from 1972 until today. We didn't have our church down here, but in 1996 we sold the property on 36th and O. We moved down here and we met in the gym for the 3 years from the time that we started the plans and got the building completed, which is behind me. We moved into the building behind me in 1999, January the 10th of 1999, and that's been 20 years now that we've been in that building. It's been a great blessing to the church, and God has blessed us here. We've added solar on the property. The next phase of this is going to be tearing down some of the old buildings that's here and constructing a better building there for youth wing for the school. And the final phase will be to expand the building, which somewhere down the line, God with our help, we're going to expand the building. We need all the extra space here for parking. The canal divided our two pieces of property, but we put a bridge across the property, and it is just a train car that hauled truck trailers, had 2 trailers on it, and we moved that in. Turner Crane Company came and lowered that, put that on 2 big pieces of concrete that was there. It turned out very nice. Now we have access between the 2 properties, and a lot of help from the Jack in the Box monies that's come to the church. So this has been a great blessing, and this year, 2018, we are celebrating our 75th anniversary First Pentecostal Church. We now call it Greater Bakersfield First Pentecostal Church because we have a branch work on the east side, we have branch work in the north, and daughter work, we claim it, and then we have work in the west side. So we call it Greater Bakersfield First Pentecostal Church for that reason. We hope in the future, the Lord tarries, that we can reach other parts of the city. We don't plan on building a mega church. We just want to reach our city with the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's the founding principle of Brother Terry. He believed the doctrine. He taught us the doctrine. He drilled it into us. And we still have many men that's even at this meeting that can attest to the fact that he put the doctrine in so strong that we probably will never deviate from one point that he gave to us and taught to us. There's many men that could say things. I'm just thankful that I was able to say something in behalf of Brother Terry. He was our founder, our pastor, our elder. We love him. He gave us a great heritage. Without him, none of the things that you've seen could come to pass because it was his foresight, his vision,